Twilight Heart, Chapter 2, Surprise Attack. Aurora and Shinx trudged through the murky woods. It was nearly nightfall, and she knew the gym would be closed when she reached it. She decided to spend the night in Veilstone. Seeing as her bike sank to the bottom of the lake earlier, long journeys wouldn't be such an easy feat. She really wanted her second gym badge, but the only thing she could think about was the boy she met at the lake. Just how he happened to appear there didn't make any sense, really. She decided to put the thought aside and continued her journey ahead. Why did my bike have to sink in the muck? I so can't believe this, Aurora muttered to herself in disgust. Eventually they came to an empty clearing and collapsed over onto the grass. She was far too tired to continue on and was half asleep as it was. Weariness overcame her. She decided to rest and head to Veilstone the next morning. After about 20 minutes or so, she was already fast asleep, dreaming about her gym battle with the Veilstone gym leader, and one day becoming a Pokemon Master. But as she slept, little did they know they were being watched. Shinx's ears perked up and began to spark with electricity. "Shinx, Shinx!" it called, trying to wake Aurora. "What is it, Shinx?" she asked groggily. She looked up to see a vicious charcoal gray wolf staring her down, growling with hunger. "What is that thing?" she screamed as she flipped out her Pokédex.
Mightyena, the bite Pokemon. Mightyena are known to be aggressive and also hunt in packs to stalk their prey.
Aurora's eyes widened. "Packs?" she asked as she noticed two other Mightyena come up from behind them. Shinx growled and charged its fur and let loose a jolt of thunder on the pack leader. The leader Mightyena took the hit and broke free of it with ease. It stared down little Shinx with anger in its eyes. They slowly encircled their prey, drooling with hunger. Aurora sat there, frozen in fear, unable to run or escape. Shinx still did everything to protect her, unleashing occasional attacks to keep them at bay. One of the Mightyena grew tired of the constant shocks and charged at Shinx and set it hurtling into a tree trunk as it fell back onto the grass in pain. The Mightyena fixed their gaze back on Aurora and slowly walked closer, baring their fangs. They had played with their food long enough. As one pounced onto her and knocked her to the ground, she let out a scream of terror. It pinned her down, making her unable to escape as the others drew near.
Meanwhile!
Zone glanced out at the water, wondering about what he forgot. He crossed his arms, closed his eyes. Why do I feel as if I know that girl? She seems familiar. Why? Thought to himself, but he couldn't grasp an answer. A loud shriek broke him of his concentration. He gasped as he recognized the voice. That voice! "Aurora!" he exclaimed as he dashed off toward where the sound had come from, deep in the woods. The Mightyena stood on top of her, pressing its paws down on her arms, and claws reached to the ground. Its grueling muzzle were mere inches from her face. Foam dripped from its maw and trickled down her neck as her heart pounded in fear. She was unable to free herself. She kicked and flailed, but to no avail. She was but a helpless meal. While the others huddled around her body, she watched the one on top of her lick its fangs as it dug its head into her shoulders and ripped the flesh from her body. She screamed in pain as it bit down and tore part of her shirt as well as leaving a huge gash in her shoulder. She felt dizzy. Her shoulder trickled with blood onto the grass below. The smell only enticed the pack to come closer, and her lust for the blood grew as they crowded around her. Everything began to spin. Aurora felt another bite in her leg. She squealed in pain, crying. Her whole body went numb, and before she knew it, she fainted on the grass, unable to do anything. Shinx watched in horror as the Mightyena feasted upon its master. As it leaned down to take another bite, a shadowed figure tackled it off of her. It tumbled down on the grass as the other two Mightyena watched in shock and snarled at the figure before him. He stood up and smirked at the two Mightyena. His eyes glowed red in the darkest of the night. "So, who's next?" he asked, standing between the Mightyena and their meal. Zone! The Shinx exclaimed and galloped up to him. Zone turned around and saw the Shinx bounding towards him. Shinx, let me handle this one, he said as he turned his gaze back to the trio before him. The mighty Anna laughed. How pathetic. This mere human thinks he can stop us. Let's show him what happens to those who interfere. Another snarled, showing its teeth. Zone nodded. All right then. What are you waiting for? Show me, he sarcastically spoke. Mighty Anna weren't amused. Why, you! It growled as it charged at him with full speed. Shinx's eyes widened as they got closer. Look out, Zone! Before it could even so much as get a taste of him, Zone disappeared in a black flash of darkness. The mighty Anna glared around, looking for where its prey had run up to. Show yourself! I promise I won't bite. Much! It cackled. It focused around as all three looked for the human, but found nothing. Hey, where'd he go? One asked, dumbfounded by the missing meat. Right here, said a voice from behind. All three turned around only to receive a swift kick in the stomach from Zone, who had reappeared behind. Teleportation? But how? One exclaimed in amazement and fear. Zone smirked. Call it a gift, he said as he disappeared from sight once more. A few seconds later, he reappeared and delivered another attack to another of the pack. Come on, guys. You're making this too easy. Where's the challenge? He laughed sarcastically. The pack leader weakly stood up and growled. That's it. Laugh it up, boy. You won't find it so funny when we tear you limb from limb! As the leader charged, a powerful thunderbird snaked its way from behind and paralyzed him in his tracks. Shinx called happily as the leader's fur sparked and frizzled with electricity. This isn't the end! They frowned as they limped off to tend to their wounds. Zone turned his gaze back to the girl on the floor, still bleeding heavily from her wounds. Is she? Shinx began as his ears drooped. Zone knelt down and placed a hand on her chest. No. Her heart is still beating, he replied. Shinx sighed in relief and placed a paw on her chest to feel the pulse as well. She is in no condition to continue adventuring, at least for now, he explained as he lifted her up into his arms. Is there any sort of medical facilities near this area? He asked. Shinx nodded. I think Veilstone City might have a hospital. Zone nodded. Alright then. Hang on, he said as he and Shinx disappeared in a flash of darkness. They reappeared in front of the Veilstone Medical Center. How do we went up here? Shinx asked in confusion. I'm not necessarily sure myself, but does it matter? He said as he entered the doors and looked for assistance. Excuse me, Zone asked as he walked up to one of the doctors in the lobby. The doctor put his papers down and adjusted his glasses. Yes? May I help you? He asked. I found this girl out in the woods. She looks like she was attacked, Zone replied, handing them her body to examine. Shinx looked up in confusion. But he saved her, not found her, he thought. Oh dear, that's terrible. Nurse, we need a carton, stat! He replied as a nurse came by and rolled her off into the operating room. It's a good thing you came when you did. Do you know who she is? The doctor asked curiously. Zone looked down at his feet. No, I'm sorry, but I do not. Thank you, he said as he walked out of the medical center. He looked up at the night sky and took a deep breath. He closed his eyes and disappeared in a flash into the darkness. Thanks to a helping hand from Zone, Aurora's life has just barely been saved. However, this only deepens the mystery of Zone. Who is he? What does his past hold? And what does the future hold for Aurora? Will she make it out of this alive? Your questions will be answered in the next chapter, Chapter 3, Sweet Memories.